Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Advisor Lodge. Today, with me, myself, Edward, and Roger as well. Today, we are going to talk about a very special topic, and that is CPF. I think everybody loves to talk about CPF. You hear in Kopitiam, taxi ride.
Grab drivers, everybody.
Yes. So, I think there's a very interesting topic that we're going to talk about. So, you better listen hard as well. And separately, our last episode is also coming up soon. So, if you have any questions for us, please send in those questions, right? We will love to answer them for you, just for you. So, okay, Roger, let's start this.
Yep. So CPF again, I think it's one of the most commonly used jargon in Singapore itself, besides all your expressways and everything. But so as you all may know, right, in I think this was mentioned in this year's budget. So somewhere in 2025, in fact, I think the latest news came out to say that it's actually later end Jan, or rather the second half of January 2025. CPF special accounts will be phased out for those that are aged 55 and above. And this has been making headlines everywhere in Singapore since the start of this year. I think there's been a lot of articles being mentioned about it. So that means that to retire comfortably, you got to think of other ways as well. So, but, just a reminder, and I don't think that I should remind everybody. I think both Edward and myself, we have been talking about it already at the start, that CPF, to some, it may be a little bit confusing. To many, including all the uncles and aunties at the kopitiams and all that, I think this is something that they love to talk about it. They love to look at their CPF balances and see how much money do they have. So, but on the plus side, this also means that you should do something about it, because the more you look at it, the more you are looking at whether how much the interests are growing as well. So to understand more and to help to achieve and to advise your clients on how to use their CPF money to start investing, we have here today who is Yang Zhi, who is actually the Investment Advisory Director at iFAST IGM Global Markets as well. So, welcome, Yang Zhi.
Hi, welcome.
Thanks.
Yes.
Yeah, so is this the part that I give an introduction of myself?
Sure, please go ahead.
Yeah, okay, right. So,
let them know about you. Let's go.
I guess you all are very familiar with the both of them. But I'm new on the show. So, my name is Yang Zhi. I'm a team director at IGM. So, currently I'm managing about 100 million of assets under advisory and about 8 years of experience in this industry.
Wow.
Yeah, so very happy to be here at the show, and
Welcome.
hopefully I can share some things that would be of insight to the audience.
The advisors will be very happy to hear from you as well in terms of getting started. I mean, 8 years of experience, you hear the numbers and all. So let's quickly just get started. So in general, usually people or Singaporeans may be a little bit more risk averse when they hear about CPF investings and as compared to like using cash, because cash, somehow they are a little bit more gung-ho about it. But when it comes to CPF, something that's dear to their heart, probably are a little bit more risk averse. So how would you actually advise, or rather, how would advisors advise their clients, to consider using CPF as compared to using cash for investment?
Right. Yeah. So actually, that's the interesting thing, because in my experience, it is quite the opposite of what you've just mentioned.
Wow. Okay.
Right? So these 8 years that I've spoken to people, right, clients, they tend to be more willing to be investing their CPF monies than cash. So let's just the investment strategy aside, product aside, like just the willingness to invest, right? People tend to think that I'm more willing to invest my CPF than cash, because why? CPF anyway is locked up. I cannot do anything with it other than unless I want to buy a house or what, right? Yep. So generally speaking, people are more willing to invest at CPF side. And then there's also groups of people that they feel like the CPF interest is too low, 2.5%.
Yep.
So they tend to say that, hey, I think I can do better than that. So, right. So they try all sorts of things.
Everybody thinks they're a guru. Okay.
Yeah, they buy stocks and things like that with the CPF monies.
Yes.
Right. So some of them you probably hear, I think you spoke about the auntie uncles and all, right? So I think Singaporeans, one of the favorite things are like REITs, our dividend stocks, right?
Yes.
So the ability to say, hey, if I could get the dividend of this amount versus 2.5%, I might as well go for a dividend stock, right? So that's the thinking. But that's very scary also, because look at what happened to REITs recently. It can be quite painful. Painful. So I think back to your question on how should we think about cash versus CPF. In fact, it's not anything special. But basically, you should think of your CPF investing just like how you think about your cash investing. You should be equally prudent. Because ultimately, when you turn 55, if you hit your full retirement sum, anything above the full retirement sum, you
Yes.
can withdraw as cash. Yeah. So,
So guys, you
technically,
can withdraw.
yeah. So invest properly, because one day you'll be able to take out as
Yes.
Yes.
So I'm going to agree with you on it. In fact, myself, I actually invested my own CPF and I would say that I actually went into full equities.
Wow.
Full equities, yeah.
Gung
Full
ho.
equities, gung ho, and I started CPF investing. I think back in 2014, right? So when you work, your contribution, blah blah blah.
10 years
you-
of experience.
Yes, and I just go in for Japanese equity and European equities.
Oh, for the last 10 years, huh?
Yes, exactly. And I mean, needless to say, it's a quite a good return, which helps me in my second home purchase right now. So I think that's how you can make use and grow your money as well.
Absolutely.
So I really will agree that in fact CPF money people are actually more willing to take more risks.
More gung ho.
More
right?
gung ho.
Yeah, I
Or,
agree.
yeah. So but it's like what he say, you have to make the right decision to make the right investment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So
yes,
and then that's where if you are not too familiar with investing, I think that's where advisors come in and basically help your clients. And by you making a good call, actually more clients will be confident, investing with you. After that, and I also hear before a lot of stories. Actually, a lot of advisors start with CPF investing first. I don't know how true is that. As in like CPF investing for their clients, and then once the CPF investing make money, then clients give them cash. So I've heard such stories.
I mean, that's pretty accurate. Like I shared earlier, I think the willingness to invest in CPF money
yeah,
tends to be a bit higher.
Yeah. So yes.
That's
So
a hack. That's a hack for everybody out there.
Correct.
Heck for advisors out there.
For advisors, so we're giving you some
Secret
tips.
sauce is out.
Yes. Okay, and of course, this year budget 2024, it was rather an interesting one because the government basically announced some changes to the scheme in 2025.
Yeah.
So, from you are the expert here. Can you summarize what are these changes and how will they affect people's retirement plan? Because the last time a lot of people SA, that's it, that's my retirement, that's my
Correct.
golden goose. But I think right now things change. So
Yeah. So I guess for the budget that happened in February of this year, right?
Yes.
A slew of measures, a lot of things were announced.
Yeah.
Of which there were actually two things that got a lot of people talking about. Like a lot of people, some people were very confused. Like what's going on? What
Confused,
DRS, FRS, ERS, what on earth are all these
Singapore
things?
is well
Right?
known for that.
Yeah, and a lot of different numbers, and these things are always changing.
Yes.
But of which there are two things. First one, right, is the increase in the ERS amount from the 3 times BRS to the 4 times BRS. Yeah, that's the first thing. So it's at this moment, maybe it sounds a bit alien. So later I'll go into it. The second thing is the closure of CPF SA for those age 55 and above next year. So that one got a lot of people very angry. Very angry, right? So let's talk about the first one. First, right? So the increase of the ERS from so currently in 2024, if for someone that's age 55, your basic retirement sum is something like 102,900. 102,000, about 100,000 lah, right? So currently the enhanced retirement scheme is 3 times the BRS. That means about 300,000 lah. Yeah. But next year onwards it becomes 400,000.
exactly.
Sorry,
I just did my homework before this, so
Yeah.
I saw it was 400.
It's 411 something.
Yeah,
lah.
correct,
I don't have the exact
correct.
number. But every year, right, don't be hung out on these numbers because every single year the number changes.
Adjusted due to inflation.
Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
yeah, yeah.
So it's about 400,000. So this is, I mean, it's not all bad news. It's good news for people who are keen in guaranteed income.
Yes.
Right.
So think about it. Last time, when you hit the full retirement sum, at 55, at 65, you start drawing about 1,005 per month.
Correct.
Right. So last time, because it's the ERS,
Yes.
the ERS is 3 times basic retirement sum. You can get something up to 2,002 thereabouts.
Yeah.
So now there are people that maybe think that they don't really like CPF, but there are also a group of people that they like this guarantee, peace of mind that I'm going to get
Lifetime
money,
income.
lifetime income from the government.
Government give me money.
Yeah.
Yay.
So now that it's raised to 4 times, right?
Yes.
If you can top up to that 411,000,
Yes.
you receive about 3,000, 3,002
Which
per
is pretty
month.
decent.
Yeah.
pretty
So
decent.
up from 1,005 to 3,000, 3,002. So it's something that, for people who like guaranteed income or they think that, investing is too complex, right? I rather just throw everything into CPF. This is a good news for them. right?
Yes.
So not everything is bad news lah. So that is the good news.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like my dad. That's a good news for him. He always,
Yeah.
yeah, this is good.
So you like fixed stuff, you like guaranteed stuff. That's good,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Then comes the bad news.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
Then comes the
There's
bad
always
news.
a catch.
Yes, then comes the bad news, right? So the bad news, as we spoke about it, is the closure of the CPF SA.
SA.
Yeah. So as we all know, right, the OA earns 2.5% per annum.
Yes.
Yeah, and then the CPF SA earns 4.08% per annum.
Ooh.
Yeah. So it seems like just a 1.5%,
Yep.
1.58% difference, right?
Yep.
But compounded over many years, it becomes a huge amount.
Yes.
So I actually did a rough calculation,
Okay.
right? Not in exact numbers, but the difference is that today, if for every $100,000 you would have had in the CPF SA, because of the closure, it goes to your CPF OA, right?
Correct.
So the amount of interest that you don't earn in
Yep.
10 years will be about, for every 100K, it's about 21,000.
Whoa.
Yeah. And it gets compounded more and more over the years.
yeah.
So by the time it reaches about 30 years, so if you're 55, by the time you're 85, the amount of interest that you did not earn from that minus 1.5%
Yes,
is about 120K per 100K. Per
100K.
Per 100K. Yes.
120K
So,
per 100K.
Yes, per
Wow.
100K over 30 years.
Okay.
So that's why I think a lot of people are very upset about that. Because that is a kind of like a secondary source of income for them. So think of it this
It's
way: you have
guaranteed
CPF.
interest.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly,
Okay,
right?
guaranteed interest.
So you have your CPF Life. Then on
Yes.
the other hand, you have money in CPF OA, SA, and if you have met the full retirement time, you can withdraw out.
Yeah.
So some people, what they do is that they just withdraw the interest,
Yep.
right? So they just leave the capital there, they withdraw
Continue
the interest.
grow and all that. Yeah,
Correct.
yeah,
So
makes sense.
when that 4% is cut, wow,
Painful.
a lot of people are very
painful.
upset with that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what happened, and I think these are the key changes that will affect someone's retirement.
I see. I mean, thanks, Yang Zhi. I think that's a very good sharing and a summary and putting into layman terms of how things have changed. So, I mean, given all these changes and all that, right? If the clients now they have that avenue or the opportunity to think about investing their CPF monies, because, like you said, every 100K block, 120K
In 30
is
years.
in 30 years' time, the interest is kind of gone in that sense because they're not doing anything. I mean, they're going to OA itself out. So if we were to pitch this to the end clients, the advisor, and then they suddenly, the client, like you said, we are more willing to put in their money into CPF, right? Then how would advisors, need what else do the advisors need to really understand the client's circumstances so that they can actually advise them to say, hey, maybe it's time to really start investing in your CPF.
I think the key thing that an advisor really needs to understand for a client to invest properly, right, is firstly what are their financial goals, and second, the risk appetite. Because the thing is this, right? Everybody would, friends, clients will come to me and say, hey, Yang Zhi, what is, can you tell me what is the best investment? Or like, today if I want to invest something, right? What is the best investment? What should I buy now?
Correct.
Then I always tell them that it depends. Then they're like, what? Depends on what? Right? So the two things I said just now, right? Your goal and the risk appetite. And that matters a lot. Because why? I'll give you some examples. So let's give some scenarios. Assuming today someone say that my goal, right, is to invest so that I can pay for my down payment for my home. 3 years down the road.
This guy.
Then the portfolio that the advisor should craft for the client should be a bit more on the conservative side.
Yeah.
Because why? Bear markets can come.
Yes.
When it's unexpected, right?
Correct.
So 3 years is a relatively short timing. So something like maybe a short duration bond portfolio or more heavy fixed income portfolio would be suitable. Then someone that comes and say, oh same thing, I want to buy down payment, I want to buy property down payment and stuff like that. But say 5 years. Then perhaps you can consider something like a more balanced approach, right? A bit of equities. Yeah. And then there could be other clients that say that, actually I don't really need the money, but I just don't want to leave it there to just earn 2.5%, right? Maybe I want it for retirement. For some older folks, right, they would say that, more senior folks, they would say that maybe I just want to live for my next generation. I want to live for my son, live for my grandchildren, right? So if you have a very long horizon, you have 10, 20 years, 30 years, and right, then you can consider like more equity heavy portfolio. Maybe 80-20 or even full equity, right? Full equity portfolio. So it could be if you have a long horizon, full equity portfolio is possible because statistically speaking, of course we are looking at like just US data, right? Last 77 years, every 7 years there will be one, on average there'll be one bear market.
Ah,
So six good years, one bad year lah.
Okay,
Average lah. Of course, it's not that uniform, right?
Yes, yes.
But if you have say like 10, 20 years, generally it's able to withstand that volatility and still come out with a positive outcome. The scary thing is this, if you have a 3-year horizon and then you say, Yang Zhi, don't care lah, just invest in the one that can give you a highest potential return. What happens if at 3 years when you want to make your down payment, the bear market comes.
Exactly.
Right? And nobody wants it to come, but if it comes, it comes, right?
Yeah,
so at that point in time, you cannot be like, you go to HDB and say, sorry, I don't have enough money. Bear market, can I pay after the bull market comes? Cannot, right? So that is why I think the first cut is understanding the goals. The goals, right, is basically the ability for someone to take risks.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's actually the first part.
Yep.
Yeah. And the second part, seems like a lot, but actually there's a second part.
Yep.
So the second part is not just the ability, but the willingness of the investor, the client, to take the risk. Because just because I'm able to doesn't mean I'll do it. Like I can go into USS, I'm able to take all the crazy rides, but I'm not willing to take that crazy roller coaster. I'm not willing to, but other people might be willing to. Right? So that's where we go through a risk profiling with the client. To understand like their investment experience. So the more experienced they are, chances are they are more willing to take the risk. And the other one is comfort with volatility. Like if let's say today, if the market plunged by 10%, yes, you can hold for 10, 20 years, right, your horizon. But if the market plunged for like 15%, 20%, will you panic? Will you be so stressed that you call me up and say,
Yang Zhi, where's my money?
Exactly. So I think like the whole idea of this willingness, right, is because we don't want anyone to have a panic attack and then make poor decisions because of that. So when we combine these two, then we'll be able to come up with something that's suitable.
So I mean, thanks, Yang Zhi. I think that's very, very good sharing. So I think the other point probably we also need to consider is that I think the people are actually living longer. So your life expectancy is actually getting longer and longer. I mean, there are a lot of centurions out there right now. So I think that's also a key point, and I guess that's where you really need to plan correctly in terms of your CPF portfolio, because even like you mentioned, even able to hit the ERS, which is the enhanced retirement sum, you get a lifetime income and all that. But if you're going to live longer for the next at 65, so probably another 20 years. Probably you got to plan for another 30 years. So
correct.
Are you able to keep up with the lifestyle that you have and the amount of money for the next 30 years? So that prudent part of things to make sure that is also needed.
Actually on this, right, I also want to highlight about things like inflation. Especially because recent topic, inflation is a very big thing, right? So while 2.5% is good, you need to consider like how is it keeping
Risk
up with
adjusted.
how is it
Inflation
adjusted is close to zero.
Correct.
So I was just having a chat with a friend about coffee, about kopio, right? We're just drinking coffee. So I was telling them like 20 years ago I was still schooling. 20 years back I was still schooling. I remember I go to a coffee shop. The kopio is 50 cents.
Agree.
Today, the same kopio, the same coffee shop, $1.30.
Wow.
Inflation rate, I went to calculate over the last 20 years, is about 4.8%. Yeah. So
even your SA also cannot.
think about it.
It's almost double. You almost double your OA. Double OA already.
So I mean, it's in this time and age, right? Like investing is no longer a luxury, right? It's a must because everything is going up in prices so quickly.
And in fact, I think if I can take from your conversation is that, earlier on you say, people are willing to take more risk for your CPF. But I think one thing is that you got to take your CPF money as real as, not say as real, it's still your money.
Correct.
Right? At the end of the day, because you used to buy a house for your retirement. So you got to treat as important as the cash that you're having right now.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
So like what he said, investment goals are very, or financial objectives are very important. Right. You need to be very clear what you want to do with this money. And you need to also, tell yourself or, understand yourself that, okay, the timeline that you need or you are willing to put in, that you don't want to touch it and all this, it must be very clear to you as well. So for me, I was very clear, right? So I was like, let's go equity. And of course, risk profiling, you got to understand yourself.
Correct.
To be very honest, for the past 10 years, I didn't really look into the whole investment. I just put it there.
money.
Right.
It's like, okay, let's write it out,
Your typical Singapore.
Hey, invest in it, I forget about it. Then after that, Japan make money.
Why got advisor here? Can introduce.
Okay. But so I think these are some of the things that you really got to consider for if the clients themselves, they got to consider this, and of course if the advisors, you got to find out this from your clients as well. It's very important.
Yes, absolutely.
Correct. So given that, what are the types of investment solutions that are available and suitable for CPF?
Actually,
you have
quite
equity. Yeah.
quite a big range.
range.
lah.
Correct,
That's quite a
correct.
big range, right?
Yes,
Like
yes.
anything on the iFAST platform.
Hey!
Right. So anything from like bonds, stocks, ETF, unit trust, everything, like anything. So sometimes that becomes a difficulty, right? Because it's like a paralysis by analysis. Right? Too many things are there. How do you choose, right? But
Everything
generally
seems to be
speaking,
good to buy.
generally speaking, I just want to say like I personally think for CPF monies, even SRS, I think that unit trust is still the way to go. And the
Alright.
reason is because for things like bonds, stocks, and ETFs, I think a lot of you will be aware, like CPF monies, if you want to invest, the CPF board must be, comforted, that must know that you're investing in something that they approve. So that's why there's the CPF approved list.
Yes.
So the approved list is a much narrower list than
Yes.
what you can invest in cash. If you can invest in cash, is this much, right? Then CPF is like half or even less than that. So for stocks, bonds, and ETFs,
Yep.
right? All these generally it's quite localized, meaning that you can only buy it through like SGX. I mean, some people I would see that some people would say, "Oh, I like to buy maybe like DBS stock or things like that, right? Or
Collect
Singtel,
dividends.
right? Collect dividends and things like that." But we cannot really compare it like that, lah. We cannot really compare it like that because. Firstly, you are taking on concentration risk. Like you're buying one single company.
Totally agree.
Yeah,
yes,
and
yes.
you see, you would say that REITs, what can go wrong? Can go wrong. Look at 2022. What can everything can go wrong. Everything can go wrong, right?
When things go wrong, it really goes wrong.
Correct, exactly. So
There's no free meal.
yeah, exactly. So I think if you're just buying bonds, stocks, or ETFs, your investments will be very concentrated in just Singapore. So you'll be missing out in a lot of other markets. For example, like Japan, Europe, like you were saying, and then even like US. So I think the better choice at this current juncture is actually unit trust, because I think that it provides exposure to a lot of other markets.
Yes.
And it allows, it comes with diversification purposes.
Yeah.
Naturally, if you invest, you have home buyers. You think that just because I see DBS there,
Yeah.
I think that you'll be okay.
You
I
like to
see
see
the
and
Capital
touch it.
Land there, right? Then it should be
You
okay.
go to the mall and then you touch
Yeah.
on the wall.
Hey,
right?
capital land.
Yeah. I'm an
still see
investor.
the logo.
My money is here.
My money is here. Right. Yeah. So, but I think unit trust is the way.
Correct. So,
think-
I mean, for myself, so I went through unit trust
Yeah.
because Japan, Europe.
Yeah, you need
To be honest,
exposure.
I mean, one thing is I wouldn't go and do very detailed analysis
Yeah,
on
exactly.
the markets, right?
Exactly.
So I leave the expert to do it.
Yeah.
They did a good job. Yes.
Yeah.
We also have funds that are approved for CPF as well. Yeah.
Please look into our website. Yes.
Okay, so I mean, I also agree with you, Yang Zhi, because I think personally myself, I've also invested into funds as well.
Yeah.
Although I have some stocks and bonds and all that,
Yeah.
but generally speaking, yes, I
Yeah.
think that's the way to go, because the
Yeah.
diversification is key.
Yes.
And the exposure to a lot of other regions, geographically, I think that's a lot better
Yeah.
as compared to home buyers. Of course,
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot run away from that. You probably
course,
still
of course,
still
of
need
course.
your DBS for the dividends
course.
and all that. But I guess a well-rounded portfolio,
Yeah.
advice from you as an advisor, or like Yang Zhi himself, probably encompasses everything else as well. So,
Yes.
I mean, leading on to our last question is that if we are talking about getting them and informing them what to do with their CPF monies and really understanding their risks, their time horizon, and their profile and their objectives, right? So, how can advisors actually help their clients to invest their funds, CPF funds,
Yeah.
responsibly?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we started off with a lot more on the client side. We talk about the client's goals, risk profile. Ultimately, the advisor still needs to do the job, like still need to build the portfolio. So the question is more like, how do we build the portfolio?
Yes.
So I think again, the iFAST
Yeah,
mission
training,
is to help investors invest globally and profitably. So
right.
advisors, right? What I think to invest responsibly, one very key thing that is often overlooked is global diversification. Global diversification, building a portfolio that is globally diversified. Why do I say so? Like, I think a lot of people increasingly, especially people who are DIY, they would say that, why don't I just buy into S&P 500? Like, what can go wrong?
Yes.
Even Warren Buffett is saying just invest into S&P 500.
Yeah,
Nothing
yeah,
go wrong. Which is what I term as recency bias. Like as humans, we have different types of biasness. Bias for home buyers, because we see then, the comfort that we buy.
Yeah.
And then there's this thing called recency bias that I think less people are aware of. But I think it's very, it's getting more and more, right? So if you look at S&P 500 over the last 10 years, of course, yes, it has outperformed many areas of the world.
Yes.
Right? But the thing is this, if you look at S&P 500 within the different time periods, you will see a different story. Right? So you look at from 2000 to 2010, if I invested in S&P 500 and just did nothing, right, I would not have made a single dollar after staying invested for 10 years. 10 years. So what I'm saying is this, right? Just because the last 10 years S&P 500 did well, does not mean that the next 10 years S&P 500 is going to do well.
Yep.
Right? And then I could bring up many more examples, right? In 2017, 2018, when China was booming.
Right.
Everybody was investing in China,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I was so excited about China also. Like, wow, Alibaba and financial, boom, got cut. Right? So a lot of people concentrated in China because what can go wrong? It's a very fast-growing economy. Look at the GDP increase.
Look at the number of
second,
people.
population size is so big, right? And everything. What can go wrong? Well, everything can go wrong. Everything can go wrong, right? So the same can happen to China. The same can happen. I mean, this can happen to China. The same can happen to the
Other
US
markets as well.
other markets.
Yeah.
So I think as an advisor, the key thing is to help clients understand about this recency bias, because it's very normal that the man on the street, you only have so much information, right? You just hear that this is good and then you buy lah. Like how would you know? So I think it's the responsibility of the advisor to highlight that this is actually more risky than you think. Right? So the proper baseline, right, is to start with a global diversification first. Just build a global portfolio.
Okay.
And then if there are certain preferences, like you think that US is better, China is better, whatever area is
Then you
better,
can
or even AI is better, right?
Yeah.
You can actually do a tilt towards it.
Yeah.
I think that would be a more prudent approach. If you're right, you make more money. If you're wrong, you still make money.
Yes.
Less lah, right? But but you still make money. Yeah.
I think that's very wise. Coming from you as well in terms of sharing how to to really advise clients in a more responsible manner. Yes, you are right. I think we probably many of us are actually guilty of that on the recency biases and all that. So everybody think that everybody is all hunky dory. Things are looking well. Now China's coming up again. Maybe they're thinking, let's go
go back in, right?
Let's go back in again.
I'm sure a lot of people got caught in the recent pick down.
Exactly.
So I mean, thanks, Yang Zhi. And I guess this is really a nice roundup.
Yeah.
So overall, I guess for those advisors out there, if you are really thinking of helping your clients and to kickstart the conversation, of course you can bring certain narratives in terms of what the media is reporting. But at the end of the day, it goes back to the roots, right? Because as an advisor, yourself, you probably need to bring your certain concepts, like your risk profiling, your objectives, your time horizon, and how diversified the portfolio is. And I think that's I've been going back to your BAU in that sense. But the CPF part, I think is something to look forward to as well.
So be it CPF or be it cash,
Yep.
I think the fundamentals doesn't change.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
How you basically build the portfolio, diversification must be there, be it a CPF or cash. So I think these are just the fundamentals of financial advisory, building a portfolio, and it's very, very key because like what Yang Zhi just said, when things go wrong, things can really go wrong.
very wrong.
Yeah, and of course, when that happens, are you able to basically withstand that? But if you actually have a well diversified portfolio, at least you don't need to worry because maybe other areas will basically supplement the risk or give you that return and mitigate your risk. So all these kind of things does matters in the long run. Of course, everybody like 20, 30, 40% kind of gain in the short term, but I think those come with consequences as well. Yeah. So at the end of the day, are you willing to basically bite the bullet, and say, okay, I make the choice, it's on me, or are you gonna, or all your savings are gone? So you really have to weigh the risk. Yep. So Yang Zhi, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, exactly.
Remember to leave your questions at the comments below, and
Correct,
we'll answer them in the last episode.
Okay, Ken.
Thanks, Yang Zhi.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Guys, bye.